Good morning. My name is Reg Hunter. I'm the Senior Program Director at Fiatech. Thank you for joining us on Technology Tuesday webinars. As you know, we have a series of webinars that we produce every week to help the industry be aware of what's going on and understand issues and questions and opportunities more clearly by collaborating with others, and that's exactly what this is about as well. This presentation by Mark Goodwin is about enterprise information management control maturity model. A quick safety moment. One of the things that Fiatech prides itself on is technologies and innovations, and one of the concerns that you have with respect to things like mobile IT is that someone could be so enamored with the technology that they fail to be cognizant about the types of risk and safety exposures that they have around them. And so just be aware, whatever you do, maintain a perspective about safety as being of paramount importance. As hopefully most of you know, Fiatech is very closely related to CII. About 12 years ago, CII realized that, although they focus on what's being done now and what is the best practice relating to certain things that are being done, the realization was that there is a missed opportunity about not being focused on future technologies and how do you go about cultivating that. And so Fiatech was formed. Again, that was about 12 years ago. And what we focus on within Fiatech is the best of what could be, and in doing that we have to rely on expertise associated with industry and some methodology that allows us to wade through not being enamored with technology but being consumed with how would the system be made or be built around the technology in order to overcome some problem in the industry. So Fiatech is essentially a project-oriented organization. We have about 80 members, and what's nice when you sit in a table with Fiatech members is essentially there's a great deal of colleague engagements. They talk about what the compelling industry challenges are, and they develop project objectives and benefits and strategies and launch it. In the past, I used to talk about Fiatech members as subject matter experts, which they absolutely are, but it's more than that. They are actually wayfinders. So not only do they understand the subject matter, but they also are motivated to find a way through the maze and come up with an optimal solution that can be scaled and deployed in the industry. Every project has a bunch of deliverables that are defined for it, but one of the backbones of the deliverables is, you have to prove out the technology and you have to prove out the concept. And recently we've been asked to include draft contract language for owners to use essentially to help them with future RFIs and RFPs and RFQs. And then at the end, Fiatech obviously is very interested in facilitating adoption. So again, Mark will be presenting on how do you go about building useful information, and that dovetails perfectly well with this image you see here, which came from Fiatech. And as everyone knows, the capital projects industry is composed of many stakeholders, and you hear words like siloed and communication breakdown and communication latency and completeness and accuracy. And so this is sort of a depiction of all the different players that are involved in a capital project and the need for having real-time actual information that feeds forward and feeds backwards within the enterprise in order to be able to be agile enough to overcome problems when they come up, but even more importantly to avoid problems in the first place. So we currently have 93 people have registered for the webinar today, over 46 organizations. You can see the names here. On your control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see hopefully something that looks like this. If you hit the red button, you can reduce or expand the information. There's fields that you can enter questions. I'll screen them and share them with Mark if it's for clarification, or I'll respond to you via response, or we'll follow up with an email response after the presentation. One of the interesting things about today's webinar, which is sort of unique, is that we'll be conducting polls, which is essentially during the presentation process. Mark will ask a few questions. I think there's maybe 8 of them, where you can see sort of what your peers are saying with respect to the topic in near real time. So Mark Goodwin is a chartered instrumentation and control engineer. He has over 20 years experience in information management for engineering. He's responsible for driving McLaren's product feature set and direction. McLaren, if you're not familiar, is an established global leader in engineering document management, control, and collaboration space. And their systems support over 300,000 users across 15,000 capital projects and asset operations in over 50 countries. So we'll start the webinar here in just a second, but I just wanted to give you my contact information. So if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email or Skype me at hunter.reg. Or you're welcome to obviously attend our conference, which is coming up next year, March 31st to April 2nd in California. And Mark's contact information, which will be provided again at the end of his presentation, is provided below. And then there's a maturity model that McLaren generated that you can download. And so all this information will be also provided at the end of the webinar. So I'm going to change the presenter now to Mark. So, Mark, is your screen up? Yep.
Yep, I think so. Thanks, Reg. Thanks for the introduction, Reg, and thank you everyone for joining. My name's Mark Goodwin. Oh, excuse me. Today I'll be talking about a maturity model we've put together here at McLaren Software. We're all here on a Fiatech webinar, so all of us are interested in technology, and some of us offer technology solutions. But this is a model that focuses really on the people aspects of engineering information management rather than technology. It's about a widespread understanding of organizational behavior, and only secondly about technology enablers. So during this session, we'll discuss the landscape today and why information integrity is critical. We'll walk through the organizational model assessment and migration, looking at the signs and symptoms that suggest that you're at a particular level. We'll talk about what you need to do to progress to the next level, or the consequences when your team don't learn the lessons associated with that level. We'll also touch on technology that facilitates progression through the model. As part of the webinar, as Reg already mentioned, we'll give you the opportunity to answer a set of questions to determine your organization's current level. This poll will be anonymous, so I'd really like to encourage you to vote during the session. It'll make sense when we get to that later in the presentation. Okay, so this slide summarizes some of the analysis and benefits that McLaren have observed over multiple solution implementations. Different companies have different issues in different parts of their organization at different times, and also different solutions. These are complex and multifaceted, and they usually involve, as well as technology, people and process. We here understand that financial impact is often more of a focus than return on investment. So as well as reviewing case studies, we also use proprietary tools that enable customers to assess business outcomes. So this area is not really the focus of this webinar, but if you want to go further into some of these numbers and how we assess the benefits realized, feel free to contact me at the end of this, and I can give you more information. Again, so let's start with where we are in today's economy. These observations are based on discussions with customers in different industries around the globe over the last 20 years. So firstly, managing engineering information reliably at the enterprise level is difficult. Okay? This is made worse by increases in project scale, the global distribution of supply networks and workforces, as well as a retiring workforce. A multicultural work environment presents language and cultural barriers. There's also conflicting attitudes to information ownership. The changes in scale and complexity increase the likelihood of unintentional errors. So for example, you might have contracted a different set of standards with different clients and contractors on the same project. We all recognize that these same issues, and we're all at different stages of addressing them. But this is why an effective information management and control strategy is so important. So as we know, inadequate document and data management and control can be devastating to major capital projects and asset operations. Losing a document or referencing the wrong data can create project delays, lost production, unnecessary rework, missed profits, angry clients, litigation, financial penalties, and in the worst cases, injuries or fatalities. Effectively, on the other hand, effectively managing information not only drives productivity and efficiency, but also improves the resilience of your organization to deal with unexpected or unplanned events. So, for example, we'll all remember the Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011, where workers were going in to inspect nuclear units without the documentation they needed because it had been lost in the flood. So another example is if the documentation for a rotating equipment, for example, was meant that we procured the wrong equipment and the wrong equipment turned out up on site. So this leads not only to the cost of sending the replacement equipment, but also the cost of the delay to the project schedule and ultimately to first cargo. So engineering information is the lifeblood of an engineering projects and asset operations, and the reason why organizations like Fiatech and McLaren exist. Okay, so as I've seen more and more implementations, I've come to realize that technology is an enabler of success that doesn't deliver success on its own. For example, consider the analogy of a restaurant. It may have the state-of-the-art kitchen with all the gadgets, but if you're not trained, organized, or working with the same recipe, or working together in harmony, it's not going to be a success. So now consider the scale of a multi-billion dollar capital project. To address these issues, companies invest millions of dollars in enterprise content management, engineering modeling, PLM, PDM, BIM, CAD, master data management, cataloging technologies and applications, which manage a wide variety of information types. But the technology is only as good as the business process behind it, and good information management working practices are not always natural or intuitive to the people involved in using them. So, if it's such a good idea, and I hope you'll agree that it is, why don't organizations manage documents and data effectively? Well, perhaps document management is something that was done for you in the past, and you have little or no knowledge of how it was done. Maybe historically the business never required an information control protocol, but the business and the volume of documents and data have grown so rapidly that everyone is struggling to manage all the information. Perhaps you don't realize the impact of your working practices on the effectiveness of others or on the bottom line. Perhaps you don't see the benefit of an information management strategy and perceive it as an unnecessarily time-consuming overhead. Or perhaps you believe you're already in control of your documents and data. Okay, that was the introduction. So now I'm going to dive into the actual model. With our limited time today, we'll keep the conversation at fairly high level. But if you'd like a more detailed discussion, we'll provide a link to a white paper at the end, or at the end of this webinar. Or after you've read the white paper, feel free to contact me directly, and we can, with additional questions. So again, without focusing on technology, the purpose is to help you to determine how mature your working practices are. This is not a test for document controllers and record managers. They're experts at this. So this is all obvious because this is what they focus on. No, this model is for everyone else. Everyone else who, as a result of their working practices, makes the job for document controllers and record managers more difficult. So as you can see, a level starts with everyone who creates or uses information. In other words, everyone in your organization has a need to use or share information. So what I'd like to start with is the idea that this model applies to everyone in your organization. Organizations at level 1 have little, if any, control over the information being created and shared on, for example, shared network drives. For small teams in continuous communication may be appropriate and meet their needs. But as the number of people involved and the amount of information grows, it breaks down. Very quickly you start to see a chaotic jumble of folders, file names, and overwritten document versions, with file names like final version 2 with comments, ... You need to move to the next level. Okay, so this is our first introduction, our first chance at doing the poll. So what I'm going to do here is once we get to level 8, we should be pretty slick at this. So I'm just going to launch this poll and just talk you through how we do this. So what I'd like to do is basically, the question is, across your organization, how widespread is the use of small team sharing and collaboration as described in as a level 1 maturity model? Okay, I'm just going to give it another 5 seconds or so. Okay, we've had about 70 times. Okay, I'm going to close this, close the vote, the poll now. We have 72% of the people voted. So I'm just going to close this. I'm going to share the results. Okay, so as you can see, most people voted either extensive or limited. Well, thank you for your response to that first one. Let's see how we go on with the next level. Okay, so at level 2, you have an official store that has a copy of documents that are required to protect your organization in case of litigation. However, at this level of maturity, documents are still created and edited in the chaos of the shared folder level, but they're archived. For example, they're declared as company records with a file plan and retention policy at the end of the project or job, or when they're shared with third parties. So you understand the need to secure information, but you don't extend this control to your day-to-day team working. The record management team struggle to classify high volumes of documents because of the amount of time between the creation and the archive, and also due to the inconsistent naming and structure of the metadata as the documents and data is created. So it's very difficult to find a document if the numbering and filing isn't consistent. You need to call Bob, right? But the problem is that on a global project, who's Bob? So how can you find anything? So even worse, there are many uncontrolled copies of different versions in circulation, so as email attachments on local drives and in shared file systems. So in many cases, people are acting on this information, this work in progress information, rather than the official record that's been stored. So in that situation, how protected are you? So level 2, we're keeping a secure archive. I'm going to ask the team to vote on this level. So within your organization, how extensive is the use of file plans or retention policies for securing records? But within the work in progress environment, you're just working with an open, uncontrolled, collaborative environment. Okay, I'm just going to keep it open for about another 5 seconds. Okay, I've got all the votes. I'm going to close the poll now and share the results. Okay, that's good. Hopefully, yeah, that seems like that level resonated with people. That seems quite well adopted. Okay, so let's move on to the next level. Okay, consistent organization. So level 3 can be described as a widely adopted library services. So you've rolled out a standard enterprise content management system or SharePoint site, but you have limited control, but you've got a commitment from everyone in the company to use it for all the documents. So with thousands of people piling documents into these systems, there's a viral growth of sites and repositories, and the number of documents multiplies into millions. But can you find anything? You've adopted the technology, but do you have the business scalability of teams being able to work effectively together? If anybody and everybody can't find information consistency, you don't have scalability. You don't have a productive workforce. So you might have different departments or teams implementing their own different document and tag numbering and metadata standards. but without mandatory classification schemes, automatic filing, automatic numbering, metadata validation, there's no consistency. The standard will not be followed consistently by different teams. So so at this level, we've recognized the need to get organized, but we haven't got there. We may have applied an intelligent search engine, but this can't fully address this situation. You know, imagine a search engine telling you that there's a 95% chance that a particular document is the correct revision of an emergency shutdown procedure, and the second one on the list says it's 85%. Okay. So, you know, imagine jumping straight into integrating enterprise systems before you've got this right. If a person can't reliably identify the right document or information, how can another enterprise system? So, to progress, you know, the organization must recognize the need for consistent organization and classification across the business to assure reliable searching and an understandable role-based security model. And, most importantly, use automation to enforce it. If you don't have this automation, you won't have consistent organization and security. Okay, so the next one. So, next one here is about having policies in place for consistent organization of filing and having those automated and enforced. So how widespread is this implemented across your organization? Yeah, I'm just going to give you about another 5 seconds to have a think. Great, thank you. Good response there. I'm just going to close the poll and share the results. Okay, so a little bit interesting, this one. So I think the votes go to the limited. So I think that's an interesting shift at level 3. So we've got a few more levels to go. So I'm going to move on. Okay, so you know, once the company has grasped filing structures, classification, and security, it needs to address the issue of relevancy. So anyone in the entire company can now find a drawing, you know, without the need to call Bob. If you're looking for a P&ID, you know it will be in the place where P&IDs go, or either a folder or it's got some metadata codes against it. Okay. But so the next question is, can you use it in the current context? Is it ready to be used for procuring equipment, fabrication, or construction? Is it safe to be used for facility operations? So these questions don't only arise when the document's in a repository. What happens when these documents are printed out and copied an unknown number of times? The wrong equipment can turn up on site if the wrong revision of a specification is used. Even worse, people can be seriously injured, or if the wrong revision or the wrong SOP is used. So the technology can help by providing functionalities such as audit trails, lifecycle management, electronic signatures, watermarking, etc. It's not good enough to capture that a document's approved. You need to capture what it's approved for, what context, what is the context that this can be used. Again, as we've already said, this is not about technology. The question for the poll is this understanding built into the working practice across the business and widely understood? So, what's the poll? You know the drill now. Pretty good at it now. So the question is how widely do the people within your organization understand that not only that you need to approve things for a particular reason, so that people understand whether or not information can be used in a particular context. Again, it's not a question for document controllers and record managers, or this is for the general population of the business. Okay, so I'm just going to give you another 5 seconds. Got a few more to vote. Okay, I'm just going to close the polling now. Thank you. Thank you. Got one more vote. Okay, close the poll and show the results. Okay, so limited. Yes, that's interesting. So as we're progressing through the model, we're moving from the extensive through to limited. That's interesting. So let's hide these results. Okay, level 5, controlled collaboration. Okay, so level 5, organizations integrate controlled collaboration with records, and document management and control. So they control in-progress work. And this control of in-progress work is critical to success when you have a global workforce. The records are created at or before the point of authoring. For example, creating placeholders to reserve document numbers and tag numbers at the planning stage. And then things are managed all the way through. As soon as somebody's starting to work on something, it becomes an active record. Information workers adopt technologies to support their day-to-day working that enforces the consistency. They don't work offline on their laptops and shared folders. They work within the system. It is this consistency that provides the business scalability and reduces individual points of failure. It only takes one senior engineer or managers to opt out of using these systems to result in a domino drop-off of disillusionment, abandonment, and email associated going back to level 2. So it's very important that everyone uses it and is encouraged to work with the system. So next question here is how widespread is what I'm referring to as secure and controlled collaboration to manage the work in progress environment and have that integrated into the record keeping environment within your organization. The thing to remember about these questions is that within the same organization you'll have different teams that work in different ways in different teams in different times. But this is just the purpose of this model is just to provide a little bit of a roadmap to see what stages you may need to progress through. Okay, so we're on to 67 votes. So again, what I'll do is I'll start the timer. We'll just have another 5 seconds to answer this one. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to close the poll. Again, we've got a good response. And again, I think it's the limiters that have it, but it's a good mix. It's a good mix. But interestingly, there's 5 at no percent. Okay, so what we're going to do here is sort of then look into what's next. So the next level of business maturity is achieved when organizations already applying the full capabilities of technology to manage and control documents. So process automation increases productivity, improves safety. Automated document control gives the organization a health and resilience by ensuring consistent working practices are performed across the organization. So this is the technology institutionalizes this working practices and behavior, so it's consistent across the organization. So at level 6, the system is performing the role of kind of an invisible, embedded, paper-based central records department, allowing the workers to focus on their primary job function instead of the day-to-day document control activities. Okay, so now may be the time to bring in the control of data to improve the integrity of engineering information. There may already be data management systems in operation, but maybe they operate in isolation. But you need to recognize the need for an overarching information strategy that encompasses both documents and data. So in other words, you can't let everyone edit the data at the same time with different people when there are people who are dependent on using that data. You need to consider organization, relevancy, issuing, and revision control. In other words, the steps that we've already talked through on the document side. So the question at this level is really, the lessons that we've talked about, and I think by response to the poll, people have it seems like they've resonated. So the question at this level is, to what extent within your organization are these same issues and these same disciplines applied to management of engineering data? Let me just bring the question up. So across your organization, how extensively do you apply these automated disciplines of organization, relevancy, issuing, and version control to your engineering data? Okay, we've got a few more people, so if you just give it another 5 seconds. Okay, I'm going to close the poll there. Okay, now this is I think it's a little bit interesting. So we seem to have a lot more minimals and nons as we get to this level. So again, interesting, and thank you very much for responding. Okay, level 7. Okay, so level 7, you always get to the stage where you need to consolidate. So this level of maturity. The organizations have come full circle. They've moved from managing engineering information, then automating and managing the process for creating and developing this information, to managing the performance of the teams and the individual workers who create these information assets. So this stage is about measuring and monitoring and managing the productivity of the information worker to ensure they're part of a productive, process-driven team. So competitive advantage for many companies stems from how well they have adapted their business practices to the demands of their markets. As an example, capturing business practices as automated processes minimize the impacts of retiring workforces, downsizing due to economic adjustments, and accidental or malicious data loss. So technology at this level should provide the ability to proactively manage potential risks and roadblocks. So at this level, what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, do we have a program of continuous improvement through measurement and optimization? Do we have a specific program to do that? Or programs. Okay, just give you another couple of seconds. Close the poll. Okay, share results. Okay, thank you very much. Interestingly, 51% of you said that you have minimal continuous improvement through measurement and optimization, which is an interesting statistic. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to our next level, sort of final level here. So at this level, engineering information management and control, we know this doesn't occur in isolation. Business processes cut across organizational and application boundaries. So rather than a departmental solution, the business needs an enterprise and global intra-enterprise solution. A company that's concerned with integration wants to reduce their islands of automation and the amount of manual effort and risk associated with maintaining multiple copies of the same information across different systems in the enterprise. So once a company has control over its engineering documents and data, it can effectively begin sharing across organizational application boundaries, freeing up high-value information for processes beyond engineering, such as procurement, warehousing, finance, and legal. But But if you try to do this, one of the warning is if you try to do this, but the information integrity isn't very good, well, you're going to be sharing information that's not controlled and having that integrate across application and organizational boundaries. Then that's potentially a risk. That is a risk for you as an organization. So my guidance would be that you need to address some of the issues in the levels 1 to 7. To a very great extent, before you fully implement level 8. So in the engineering world, there are many specialized applications that can generate engineering deliverables ranging from electrical load simulators to structural analysis applications. But from an IT perspective, this means taking a hybrid approach to enterprise information and control by carefully selecting integrated technologies and secure collaborative environments. So this ensures that engineering information creation, exchange, and modifications are handled with a consistent process. So this is my final poll question: is across your integration. So how good are you as an organization? How integrated are you across the enterprise and beyond to support cross business applications, cross business processes, and intra company processes? Okay, just going to give it a couple more seconds. Okay, I'm just going to close the polling now. Another good response. I'm going to share the results. Okay, so I think again, 50% are basically saying there's a minimal integration across the enterprise and beyond. Thank you very much for that. Now going on to talk about so what and what do we do? So companies that use a maturity model to delineate the characteristics. Oh, sorry, I've just noticed I need to hide the results. Thank you. Oops. Okay, so companies that use the maturity model to delineate the characteristics of mature, capable work management processes, to determine their own maturity. So to identify your level in the organization, you need to develop questionnaires, carry out process audits, monitor system usage, and interview key personnel. So remember, this isn't about your understanding. This is about the general understanding across the team, across the organization. So in transitioning an established culture is much more difficult than delivering technology. One of the most important aspects of managing change is measuring it. You need to identify milestones and monitor how your culture is maturing before you implement subsequent solutions. Otherwise, your subsequent solutions will repeat mistakes. Many of the organizations we encounter initially made the decision to just roll out standard EIM&C collaboration file sharing technology, only to have millions of documents that are in chaos, as discussed at level 2. And they've become stuck in a never-ending cycle of in-house development and bespoke development by integrators, and struggle to roll out solutions that are adopted at widespread. So selecting the right technology solution, one that enables your industry and organization business processes rather than dictates them, will reduce the cost and the commercial risk and provide with competitive advantage. Okay. Oh. Takeaways. So, we've talked about business motivators for an effective engineering information management and control strategy. We've also looked at a model to help you to assess where you are, where you want to be, and how to get there. And we also talked about how technology can enable your processes, but rather than dictate them. Okay, so on. Well, thank you for listening to me and participating in the poll. We'll share out. We'll email a summary of the results after the session. But now it's your turn. So over to you. I want to see if you have any questions or feedback. Did you find this model useful? Did it resonate? Did the descriptions resonate with you as an organisation? Has anyone developed their own models similar to this? Yeah, over to you to ask them if you've got some questions.
Thank you, Mark. Everyone who's attending the webinar, there's a pull-down menu on the right-hand side of the panel which says questions. You can type your questions there. Mark can see it. I can see it. You're welcome to do that. While we're waiting on questions, Mark, I have a couple of questions for you. In the very early on in your presentation, you're showing some performance numbers that has been your experience. With respect to the maturity model, when you look at those numbers, is there some correlation between how sophisticated the organizations were that realized these kinds of benefits with respect to the maturity models, or how would you reflect on that?
Thanks. That's a good question, Reg. Yeah, I think there is a link between that. I think that when you do a software implementation, it's not just about buying the software and you get the results. It needs to go hand in hand with organisational change, which involves getting everybody on the same page in terms of people, the processes. I would actually say that in some ways it's the business change that helps to realise the benefit more than technology, but often the technology is used to facilitate that change or implement that change, because this is how the system works and this is how we need to work. So I think the two go hand in hand.
Okay. Well, we have questions are flowing in now. So, and by the way, if we don't get to it, we'll forward the questions on to Mark so he can respond to it, or I'll try. The first question that came in was, beyond the actual engineering deliverables, how can general project communications be automated for control? So it's moving past the kind of the rigors and structure that you would envision for the exchange of information to just creating a dynamic environment where people all essentially know what everyone else is doing from a relevancy standpoint.
Okay, well I think that's a great question, and I think that it really what we're saying at this level is that you're not creating things on your own laptop or desktop or in an uncontrolled environment. What you're doing is you're working within the system that everybody else is working with. So if you have a document, that document was created, was planned. So effectively, it was planned, and the deadlines were associated with it for either being submitted to you or being created. So the documentation is already in the system. So people, other people within the organisation have visibility as it evolves. But because you've applied relevancy labels and maturity levels on that information, so it's very clear that this is a draft. Okay, so and that would tie in with the security so other people can access. But they understand that it's a draft and it hasn't been approved for procurement, so they can use it in that context, and that promotes better sharing. So it's a record from even before the point of creation, because it's even at the planning stage when you're reserving numbers, you're actually creating templates and using templates in the system to see the work. And it doesn't just apply to deliverables. You can use templates for everything, from meeting minutes to letters and really anything. So my advice is centralize and control everything, so that it's available to everybody. Because it's not, if you're associated with a project or some function within operations, all that information you create, it's not yours. It's your company's. So it makes sense for it to be created and any changes be done within the system, rather than part with it.
Great. Well, the next question, and this kind of resonates with me, particularly in Fiatech. As you know, many of Fiatech's active projects are involved in movement of information and consensus building and working towards solutions in that regard. And this question is just great to me. It says, how do you get all stakeholders, preferably the leaders, to appreciate the value of good information management? So in other words, just because you can do it, how do you get them to engage and be committed and go for the long term on that?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I think that's the most difficult thing to answer, and it's at the heart of the change management. You have to. People have a key role in a process like a lead or a manager, and if they're kind of opting out of the system, the whole system breaks down. So it's critical that they're involved and they see the value of it. I think it's important to first of all explain to them, but that if they're not doing it, but ultimately if it has a major impact on the business, there needs to be a management approach that ensures people do work with big business practices that make the whole organization effective. In these large endeavors, it's not about individuals. It's about the combined effect of everybody working in a consistent way, and that's how you get this.
I mean, the reason this resonates with me, this is a classic sort of seed for how Fiatech projects emerge. You could make an argument that this is so pertinent to how do you drive the effective coordination and appreciation for how information manifests and move, that perhaps we should re-review our projects relating to this, or perhaps even launch a new one that specifically builds the business case, takes your model and reduces it generically across our industry, so that all the stakeholders have an appreciation that if they forego these kinds of emphasis on different maturity levels, they have to recognize that their vulnerability to cost and efficiency increases. One of the other questions was, do you have some reference or examples of implementation of maturity model on a major project?
I think this is something that we've used within our services organization. Different teams. I would like to say that all our teams use it in a consistent way. I think some teams use it better than others. But one of the ways we use it effectively is to help an organization to develop a roadmap for an implementation. Quite often people start with saying, "Oh, we want to integrate across and into the enterprise and across all these different systems." They want to jump straight to what we'd refer to as level 8, but they don't have any consistency in their organization. They don't have they're not creating audit trails. They're not doing these things, and we really just use this as a way to say, "Okay, this is what you need to do with your system." There's no point in implementing a very mature technology if your organization isn't ready or understands it. So the two things need to work side by side. You need to progress the organization, and you need to sometimes just go through all the steps. So it may take longer to go through those than it does to jump straight to the technology solution.
Yeah. The next question is, if after an organization essentially goes through the process of determining where they are with respect to their own maturity model, and the question is how much improvement should an organization strive for at any one time? So what this has to do is, how do you migrate across these boundaries between the different maturity levels? And then how do you go about measuring where you are with respect to your migration up, hopefully up the ladder here?
I think that in terms of seeing where you are, obviously you need to talk to people, but you need to use technology sensibly. We can't do this. We can't do these global projects and global operations without this technology. There's just too much information. So by looking at the systems and looking at how people are using the systems, you can see whether or not people are getting it. And then what you're doing is as you as an organization understand how you want to work, what your working practices should be, and you get perhaps a particular group or department working well, what we need to do is we need to capture that, automate it so it becomes institutionalized. So really the system starts to become in some ways a bit less flexible, so that we can then move and then reassess. But it's not a big bang approach. This is an ongoing process of learning and iterating and tweaking the way that the people are working. So I think the answer is a combination of incrementally improving the technology support to reduce the so that it actually becomes more invisible. I think very well implemented technology should be invisible to the user. So the user just does their job, and it's all going on. All the hard stuff is going on in the background. But there does but if you've got a button that says, well, you need to approve this for a reason, if people don't understand why they're doing that, then they won't click the button. So it is important to capture information about how people are using the system, and identify groups that are using it better and groups that aren't using it not so well, so that you can address those issues and discuss them and find out why it's not working. It may be there may be very valid reasons. It may be that the tool isn't quite working, isn't quite fit, so that maybe the tool needs to change. Or it may be that the people need to it's no longer an option. They do it in the old way because they're operating on a much bigger scale, so they need to change the way they work. So that's a change management issue.
Yeah, thank you. There's sort of a flurry of questions here. And thank you everyone for all these questions. They're great. I'm trying to read it and at the same time listen to Mark's response and be coherent at the same time. But there's some questions that a number of questions that fall along the lines of, I think what happens in our industry is we get impatient. So when we're expending energy to do something, we want to have a reason for it. And for example, if there's a mandate from an owner to do it, it helps it move along pretty well. But what people are asking is that how long does it take, or how do you go about seeing the benefit of moving through this migration and the maturity level? And so is it like on the order of months or years? And then how do you go about knowing that things have gotten better? And because that obviously helps motivate excitement and advancement in the maturity level of an organization. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's important. As you were saying that, I just had a flashback. You're thinking about it's important to put a lens on things sometimes, just to because something is going on all the time. It just becomes norm, and sometimes it takes somebody else to sort of come in and say just look at things and expose something from a different perspective. So, as an example, mentioned obviously who, but I've seen systems of implementation of an EIM&C system that was a basic system, and everybody got to use it, and it was rolled out across very large teams. So the technology was very scalable, and what they were doing was the IT team were monitoring the usage of the system. So. And when they went to 1 million documents, they had a party. There were 1 million documents. Whoa! And this is delivering so much value to the business. But then if you looked at it with a critical eye, you saw, well, it was kind of it was actually it was fairly chaotic. Everybody was doing their own thing, and imagine trying to looking across projects and across the organisation. There was just no consistency there. So perhaps you need to do an exercise like this. And I encourage you to obviously do something relevant to your own organisation. But a lot of EPCs and organisations, you do actually have standard filing structures. Simple steps. So you have a filing structure. There'll be a set of binders on all the document controllers or project secretaries shelf, and they'll go, okay, these are the standards. So as a test, what I suggest you do is take a deliverable, I don't know, a PNID or a general arrangement or something, and say, okay, go to the different teams in your company and ask them just one question. Okay, two questions. Okay, where would you file this? What metadata would you associate with it? And try 10 different groups and see what answer comes back. And if the answer comes back, you get 10 different answers from 10 different groups, you've got a problem.
Good. We're getting close to the end of we have only about 4 or 5 minutes left here. A person brought up the point that there's a lot of initiatives on various projects that provide compelling benefits, but there's these barriers. It tends to happen on a job-by-job basis, and there's barriers to essentially have it being recognized and adopted as a practice within an organization. And how do you go about essentially generalizing and embracing it in the fabric of how an organization runs?
Sorry, Reg, could you just repeat that question?
The bottom line is that there's a lot of innovation out there, and from project to project, depending on who you have on board, the innovation varies. But it doesn't seem like it migrates into a larger framework to be used across projects.
Right, and I think we all know innovation is great. But if we go back to the the story of the Tower of Babel, what we know is if everyone knows the story of the Tower of Babel, where the challenge, the hubris to the gods, where basically the thing failed because the teams couldn't communicate. So unless you have, and I think this this resonates hopefully across Fiatech, is if we don't have a consistent way of working with our engineering information, it's not just the data standards, but how we store it, how we control it, how we assign, so we understand whether or not we can use it. You won't be able to get a lot of people to be able to work effectively together. It's as simple as that. So really, in this situation, the innovation prevents a team of people working effectively together. You couldn't have an army where everybody just makes it up how we're going to work it. There is the army way. There is a way of doing it, and that's how you get a large group of people to work effectively. Is to have a standard way of working. So actually, innovation it can be a bad thing unless that innovation is to driving continuous improvement, and that information is captured, and then that becomes the new standard.
Yeah, so we only have time for one more question. I'd like to encourage all of you to look at the screen and mark down Mark's email address, and then if you have further questions, you can send it to Mark. You're more than welcome to send me an email. My name is Reg Hunter. My email address is hunter@fiatech.org. We'd be happy to talk to you about various initiatives like our advanced information work packaging efforts and a variety of other things if you're interested in participating in these projects, or perhaps launching a new project along the lines of what Mark described today. And then also, feel free to download the maturity model from McLaren as well at the location that you see there. Now we will send a notification out when this webinar has been posted. There actually is two automated notifications. There's one from GoToWebinar, and then there's also one from Fiatech. And so just in advance, thank you for your time. And the last question, Mark, is that can you speak a bit about how standardizations dovetails into support business readiness and this whole notion about the maturity level for information management?
Yes. Just before I do, Reg, just to clarify, when people send the link, will they be able to download an actual copy of the webinar? So will the webinar be posted also on the Fiatech website? Yeah,
the whole video. It'll be like a it'll be like a YouTube. It'll be available.
Okay. So I mean, I think that's the question is at the heart of what we're trying to do here is basically joining the standards. And the heart of a mature, effective, productive organisation is standards. But the one thing everyone will agree on is that their standard is the best standard. So adoption of standards means giving something up to the greater good. Whether that's at a company level or at an industry level. I think we all as members of Fiatech recognise the benefit of standards to drive interoperability. But what we've tried to discuss today is that on a more generic business level, driving benefit to the business itself.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We had on average about 60 to 70% participation. And as I said before, we had about 92 register. That includes some of the organizers as well. Very good turnout, very good voting. I really appreciate your openness. It gave me a lot of insight, and hopefully you found it beneficial. Once this webinar is over, you'll be asked to give us what you think the value of the webinar was, and it'll help us tailor webinars going forward. So really appreciate your time this morning, and you all take care and stay safe during the holidays, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Happy holidays.